I'm walking down the street.
I do want to say to Doni and many of you in this room that over a very long career in this city, all of you have helped me and my colleagues tell the truth and to try to tell.
I may not look like you and you me, but
Take my hat
I'm
up.
from South Carolina, so I just...
What does this event mean to you, Miss Peggy Morris?
Oh, my heart,
Happy 20th anniversary.
my heart is about loving up on my sisters. Do you know what it feels like to have your sisters in the room? Don.
And dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. I am beautiful, I am blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh. I'm free from people, free from myself.
The doctor lived next door to the janitor, to the reverend, and the lawyer. We were together. Now we get so high and mighty that you create stress for your society because you don't like poor black folks either. That's a health problem. Get yourself together so I can stop being taking care of geriatric people and get back to pediatrics. I thank you, Doni, for all you've done. Let's keep doing it all and more.
Letting His glory shine through. Dare to be you, dare to be me, dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. And I dare you, I dare you, I dare you to be you.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. All right, all right, all right. The 19th of October. This month is rolling right along. How's your month coming along, Joe?
Hey Doni, I'm doing just great. How you making out?
I'm grateful, man. What a beautiful day. Is fall is coming into itself. The leaves are changing.
Look,
Not too cold. Guess the last of what they call Indian summer. You ever hear the term Indian summer?
yeah, I'm a Native American, of course. Of course. Look, Doni, I have our guest on the phone because he couldn't get in.
How can he get in?
Okay, he could not get in. He went to backstage, but he couldn't get in. Maybe because he's got an Apple computer. Maybe that's the issue.
We've had challenges with apples before.
Okay, all right. Well, let's see if I can bring him on by phone while we go through that. Can we do that?
Let me just ask you, why is this important to you, Joe?
Well, I think it's important to America, and I think once you see this ACUX and what ACUX does, and the listening audience and the country, then you'll realize how important this is for the nation.
What's
And
this, Joe?
internationally.
ACS, is that a pyramid business?
ACUX?
Well, yeah, what's it stand for?
ACUX is an energy company. Energy company.
Energy. So we're talking about energy this morning.
Yes.
Well, we need energy.
Big time.
We need responsible energy, Joe. You know, we're in a whole green world.
Absolutely. This is the best you can get. I'm just kind of disappointed that we can't get him to interface his computer to interface with you on this show. But I do have him on. I have him on speaker.
Let's do it.
Alex.
Hi, can you hear me, Doni?
Yes, Alex, how are you?
Good morning, sir. Well, thank you. I appreciate this, and I apologize. I'm sort of a caveman with this communication business, but I have an IT person, so I apologize anyway.
You have a bit of an accent there. You're over there with the Bloody Queen, huh?
Yes. Doni, I sent you an email this morning about 30 minutes ago that gives you a good overview of the price, the updated package. Okay.
Okay.
He's not able to pull that up. But so yeah, if we go with the questions and we start with the questions on what this means to you, and Alex, you can start with who is ACUX Energy.
Right. So Doni, you can hear me okay then. So I'll continue.
Please continue. It's not the greatest, though, I must tell you. Is there a local number, Joe?
Yeah, he has a local number.
Joe, why don't you put that number in the chat?
I'll put the number in the chat. He can call in. Let's try it this way.
Or you can give him my number. Yeah, because it's not a great audio.
Hold on. Let me see if I can give him your number. Okay, I'm gonna give him your 443 number, Doni.
That'll work.
Great, Joe. I'm ready for the number.
Okay, that is a 443-858.
858
2684.
2684.
Yes.
I'll hang up and call Doni now. Okay?
Absolutely. Let's try that.
Cheers.
Okay, thank you. All right, this should work, Doni. It's not what we want, but hey, sometimes in life you don't get what you want.
And then we'll get to whatever else is going on down there in the county.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I thought we were going to have Aisha Brave Boy today.
Well, she's going to be there either next Tuesday or Thursday. Seems she's got pulled away on a national conference.
All right, let's see what we got here. Good morning.
Doni, it's me. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, much better. How are you? What's your name?
It's Alex Copson.
Alex Copson. All right, Alex, where are you from?
London originally.
London.
Yes, sir.
Get out of here. I had to work on my bloody accent today.
There you are. We'll give each other lessons, right? So how are you, Doni? You well?
We're good. What you selling, Alex?
What am I selling? That's a good point. I just wanted to Joe asked me to talk to you and tell you what the project's about if you're interested, and what the next steps are, and why is it important to the US, and certainly could be vital to Baltimore. So,
have you been to Baltimore?
I have many times, as a matter of fact. I often travel from Washington to New York and go through Baltimore, but I've been to Baltimore a few times, yes.
Have you had a good crab cake?
I have, yes, absolutely.
Because you can't say you've been to Baltimore if you haven't had a good crab cake.
Absolutely. Yes, I have, sir.
All right. So how long have you been in the energy field?
I've been pretty much all my professional life. So what's that? A good 40 years now,
Okay. And where are we here in the Western world? What is our state? What is our status when it comes to energy? Are we too reliant on oil? Should we be closer to green energy? What's your perspective?
Well, I think we've dropped the ball on nuclear. And I think now John Kerry has come quite 180 degrees now, saying nuclear power is vital to a green transition. We've always said that for the last 5 years. And we are very heavily into offshore wind. And my point to everybody on the East Coast is you're not going to see any offshore wind at gig scale. That means large scale, because the whole program was based on some very cozy assumptions that just were wrong.
Like what?
Well, first of all, you can't install these offshore wind turbines without having special vessels. So the foreign European wind developers just made the assumptions that these foreign ships, these highly specialized foreign ships, would get the Jones Act waiver. And that's not going to happen. And so we filled that gap. We are building 4 of these highly special vessels to do offshore wind in Texas, but they won't be available for about the first one won't be available for about 2 years. So what we're saying is that you can't have offshore wind in the East Coast without having special vessels, and the special vessels may not be available. They're more likely than not that they aren't available.
So, Alex, what are the stocks looking like on this? I would imagine, say 10 years ago, the stocks on this type of industry, I imagine they may have been better. But somewhere along the line, as you pointed out, they found out that they didn't have everything they needed. And so it was almost like back to the drawing board, or there was a delay, but I would imagine the stock price went down.
Well, stock price, well, all you have to look at is the makers of the big wind turbines, the very core of the industry. Last year, practically all of them lost $1 billion. So ask yourself, how do we have a boom market, enormous demand, and yet you lose billions of dollars in investment? So there's something clearly wrong. I think there was a rush for the marketplace. I think a sort of fever was developed, and everybody rushed in and thought this would be a big bonanza, then realized that they got the carrot in front of the hay bale in front of the cart, and the horse is still back in the barn at Denmark or Germany, And so the whole thing, I think, was badly designed, but it got caught up in a big surge, But we fixed that for the East Coast, particularly Maryland.
Well, I'm just curious now. What about the West Coast? They don't need energy?
Well, we're going to be very prominent on the West Coast out of California, where we already we're putting in the vital infrastructure in California out of Mare Island, which is in the San Francisco Bay. So we'll be dealing with the governor's office shortly over there, as I'm hoping to deal with Wes over here.
Okay, what's your company? What's your company, Alex?
Well, the company is ACUX Energy, and ACUX Energy was specifically created to do one mission. That was to create a vehicle called Super Consortium that's vital to our national interest in the Middle East and the Mediterranean. And part of that project allows a lot of infrastructure and jobs to be created in the U.S.
Okay, that sounds good, but go back. You said the product is called Super Consortium?
Yes, we are the only people in the world who can put together Super Consortium. Super Consortium is the missing link, in my opinion, a lot of other people's opinion, of our foreign policy, particularly in the Middle East. It resolves the Iranian issue. It helps resolve the Iranian issue in a very constructive way for the U.S., Saudi, and Israel. But you can't do that without a very specialized facility here in the U.S.
Okay, but you still haven't told me what Super Consortium is. That seems like a name. It doesn't seem like a product.
No, Super Consortium is the group that will construct 50 nuclear reactors, 40 of which will be in the Middle East and 10 here in the U.S.
Now, I'm not the greatest science buff, but is nuclear safe?
Well, there are 500 nuclear reactors in the world, up to 500 nuclear reactors in the world. They've been operating since the 60s. So, I think the evidence speaks for itself.
No, I'm not going to. So that means we're safe? I only say that, Alex, because I tend to watch a lot of futuristic movies, and they all say that we're destroying the earth. And Elon Musk, as well as the Chinese and the Russians, they like going to outer space. I got to ask you this, Alex. What do you think about people bringing back samples from the moon? Should we be digging up the moon?
Well, we're an interesting species, aren't we? We can't even get things right on our planet.
Now we're going to take our trash and roaches and rats to the moon. And we're eating it.
Exactly.
Who eats the moon, Alex?
Exactly. Look, if we can't look after our own planet, we shouldn't be exporting our crap to another place. I agree, but hey, science is science and research is research. And
no, I don't agree. I think there has to be a halt put to it. I've seen the futuristic movies and I'm not impressed. I think we got to clean. There was a commercial here, Alex, and if you didn't grow up here, you'd have never heard it. But as a kid, there was this commercial, and maybe you did have it in London, but it would come on about 11 o'clock in the night and say, do you know where your children are? And there was another commercial said, the same young boy, he wanted to have a kid, having sex. And his mother said, you can't even keep your room clean.
Yes.
So we want to go to the moon, bring back samples, find incredible minerals that we can then sell at exorbitant prices to people who can't afford it. I just don't agree with, I think there's a limit to where science can go. And if we don't put our foot down, then we're liable to destroy ourselves. I just think there has to be a limit. And people like Elon Musk, no matter how much money they have, they probably need to be taken out back to the woodshed. You know what that means, right?
Yes.
I mean, look what he did to Twitter. If he can't help Twitter, then how in the world is he going to help the rest of the free world?
It's certainly a perspective, Dottie. It's certainly a valid perspective.
All right, I defer back to you, Alex. Tell us more.
Sorry?
I defer to you. Tell us more.
No, I'm saying that, look, you can't have, in my opinion, a green transition without nuclear power. The tragedy is that, just remember two things. China is about 5 years ahead of the UK, and the UK is 10 years ahead of the US in offshore wind. There are problems. And people think you just have a million turbines out there and you just run the cable to the beach and everybody's happy. It doesn't work that way. So the reality is, and I think John Kerry is now agreeing with me, that nuclear has to be part of the energy mix. So our position is that offshore wind, which we're going to be very big in, probably the biggest in America, and nuclear power are absolutely suited bedfellows to sort of deliver a clean energy. So despite everything has a risk, you just simply have to accept the risk on all things. But this is the least of the risk, and I think the fastest way to do that transition. I think if you obstinately just think wind and solar will do it, I think it will not go forward, and you're really defeating the objective of the transition.
Okay.
So I think Mr. Kerry will agree with me on this.
Okay, so let me just check in with Joe here. Now, Joe, who was doing energy here in Maryland about, 13 years ago? Or maybe it wasn't that long. It was about 10 years ago.
Basically,
Wasn't the guy who worked for Martin O'Malley? What was his name? The chief of staff, Michael Enright? Didn't he leave the O'Malley administration for some wind and off? I thought it was wind energy. Help me out, Joe.
Wind energy, I think it's 2000 and either 2006, 2008, was a initiative of Governor O'Malley. And during that time, he spent the time.
They had facility. They had a plant, a farm down on the Eastern Shore or something.
No, never was a plant down on Eastern Shore.
Yeah, it is. Michael Haney, come on in here, Michael Haney. I need your help because Joe has got me talking to London. I haven't even worked on my accent.
Donnie, Western Maryland. Okay, look, I've been doing this. I'm an engineer, so I've been doing this and studying this for a long time. I worked on the offshore wind during the O'Malley administration. So I'm well aware of the politics in the state of Maryland in terms of pushing this agenda forward. And you have to remember that the U.S. and the world are on a critical state to deliver on a critical stage in which they have to create a certain amount of green energy on an annual basis. So everybody in the world is working on trying to do just this. So there are different ways of getting to the desired goals. This is probably the most preeminent way of actually doing this. It's not unusual. You have this already in the state of Maryland at Calvert Cliffs. You got a production facility, for those who don't know, that are doing that. And Dominion Energy, who basically controls all of the energy in Virginia, is ahead of the curve in who's doing this. We're just left out of the process because we don't know. because of a lack of knowledge does not allow us to understand the field. And when you said nuclear physics, you are talking about a very high level of knowledge and sophistication with these individuals. And so what happens is that most individuals don't even want to attempt to go there. They block their mind on this. But unless America does something, it's going to end up in a race to nowhere because everybody's going to be one up on it. And I think what Alex is suggesting to the governor, and also he's working with in LA, that in order for you to do this, you have to do it and not depend on wind energy alone. You have to have a backup to it. Now, your nuclear generation is a backup to wind energy because it runs all of the time. Wind only runs 50% of the time. Solar panels only work when the sun is out. And there's no way that America can meet its demands if you only depend on those two products to achieve it.
If you only depend on wind and the sun.
Solar. Yes. Yes. But because the world is controlled by fossil fuels, every morning when you wake up, and millions of Americans, you jump into your car and you drive to your location. As a result of you doing that, somebody's getting rich on you. Somebody's controlling your price at the pump. And it goes, yesterday I bought gas, it was $3.15. 2 days ago, it was $3.46. Who's making the money now? Bottom line is what this does from an energy perspective is moves us to be parallel players in our country, in the US, with foreign nations. We can be competitive if we.
Okay, maybe I'm slow, Joe, but he just said the Chinese are ahead of the British, and the British are ahead of the US. So
Yes.
we got a lot of catching up to do. Alex, what do the Chinese know that we don't know?
Well, they very quickly came to the conclusion that you need nuclear power as well as offshore wind, and they're doing it. So they have a 100 reactor program. They've just gone past the 20th mark, so they've got 20 reactors. They're going up for a lot more, and they're going very much hard on offshore wind. We haven't even started over here because the reality is we have this myth that just wind and solar will do the job. It's just wrong. And by the time you figure it out, it's almost too late. Because, we really have a timeline, and we have to be in gig scale, meaning you need to have the equivalent of wind at the rate of about 10 nuclear power stations a year. We don't even have the manufacturing for that capability installed. So it's a bit of a fantasy going on and waving your hands about it when it's not even realistic.
Alex, I want to shift for a second. There's a book by John Naisbitt called Megatrends 2000. Now, the book's well over 20 years old, but it goes into how the Southeast Basin would be a hotspot. And as we can see, when you look at, just Hong Kong's reversion to China back in 97, a lot of people in the West said, oh, China's going to mess it up. China doesn't know what to do with Hong Kong. That was what all of the West said, from England to Washington, D.C. Oh, the Chinese are going to mess it up. That was 97. Less than 25 years later, from what I see, and you said China's ahead of UK, UK's ahead of US. It seems like China is the new hegemon.
Well, they got 1.4 billion people. So if you add up the population of the US, Europe, and Russia, you don't even make 1 billion. So just put that in mind. And if we don't, as John Kerry says, the fastest way for climate mitigation is to take out coal ASAP. And when you want offshore wind to replace coal and solar, and you got these financial barriers, you've got these regulation barriers in, you're not going to achieve the goal. And you've got to be careful that that we're actually undermining ourselves. If you want to lead the world in transition, which the Biden administration wants to, you have to show that you can do it, and we're not. The reality is China's miles ahead of us, and you've got to wake up to the fact that wind, solar, and nuclear is the combination. And
Wind, solar, and nuclear. What's the holdup here in the U.S.?
Well,
is it regulations? Is it D.C.? I mean, did you not buy enough lobbyists?
We don't have enough factories to deliver it because everybody wants to be in the internet or the advertising world. Nobody wants to be in the steel business anymore. And so you've got infrastructure, you've got manufacturing capability that doesn't exist. ACUX is about trying to change that. And so the core of the core of climate mitigation is going to be nuclear power. Nuclear is 98% reliable. The wind is at best 40 if you're lucky. Solar, as you said, when the sun doesn't shine, it doesn't produce. You can't run a country on the weather. It's as simple as that. So you need a base load to carry everything. And the best way of doing that is with nuclear power. One problem, the classic makes the point again that I'm making, that you can't even make reactors in this country. China's the #1 reactor manufacturer, second Russia, third South Korea, fourth the French. Where's America? Zero.
Well, maybe we have after effects of, what was it, 3 Mile Island or the other nuclear disasters that it was one in Russia. I mean, there's a lot of vulnerability, and then you have terrorists running around. If I'm trying to take over your country and you have a nuclear reactor, I mean, you're very vulnerable, aren't you?
Not really. Look, 3 Mile Island was a long time ago, and Pittsburgh's still around. We had the Fukushima in
Chernobyl. That was it. Chernobyl.
Well, that was Ukraine, and Ukraine's look, nothing's perfect, okay? The issue is.
Well, hold on. I gotta ask you now, Ukraine. I'm a little slow, but aren't we dumping like $100 billion into Ukraine right now?
It's certainly a lot of money, yes.
Certainly a lot of money. We don't have new recreation centers. We have 11 schools in Baltimore City without air and heat. The priorities here just seem to be so skewed. $100 billion for what? For soldiers? I mention that because is this really about Russia and Ukraine, or is this about nuclear power or some other power?
Well, the Ukrainian issue is unique to itself. Russia, 15, 20 years ago, Russia became an energy exporter, equal if not exceeding the Middle East, Saudi Arabia. At the same time, fracking happened in this country, and America became a major capability in the oil and gas industry. I mean, equal to. So there used to be one giant player, now there are three. And so everyone has to make a living and pay the bills. And so Russia was the big energy through gas to Europe via the pipelines through Ukraine. Something went wrong there, and they got in a fight, and the result was, some anger, and this is what happens. And so it goes back to energy again, frankly, because remember something, a very significant part of Russia's revenue is from oil and gas exports. And so when somebody plays around with that marketplace or interferes with it, it's a very serious issue. You could actually say it's existential to them, So as your guest said, we all run oil and gas. That's not going to change for the next 20 years. Unless we move in a progressive manner, not in a sort of hysterical, angry manner. We have to do it properly. And offshore wind, we're going to be, ACUX will probably be the biggest offshore wind provider, not operator, provider here on both coasts. We've got a lot of very extensive program going off in California. Happy to show you that at some point in the future. But the reality is, without nuclear power, it could be possibly a large crock. Okay.
So what is it you want to do here in Baltimore?
Central to stability in the Middle East and our national security with respect to the Middle East and the Mediterranean, we need to have a big nuclear program. We cannot lead a nuclear program because we don't make nuclear reactors. If you order a reactor in America, it's likely to be built in either Korea or China. Okay, fact. So the reality is that we cannot lead a transition if you A, ignore nuclear, B, you can't even deliver nuclear. So part of our project is to build a very large nuclear parts manufacturing, not a nuclear part, a facility that manufactures the vital parts for nuclear power. We call that heavy parts. This facility will need 10,000 employees, 10,000. I live in Washington, D.C. The nearest deep water industrial place would be Sparrows Point. Now, this 10,000 people, they'll be made up of electricians, pipe fitters, welders, and machinists. This core of people will act as the core of a U.S. expertise abroad, mostly in the Middle East. The revenue of this plant. Now, by the way, just so you know, these jobs are not jobs. What you have at Sparrows Point is jobs. These are careers, earning between $150,000 and $200,000 a year.
Okay, if you're just joining us, we're talking with Alex of ACUX Energy Super Consortium. 1 and 2 collectively give the U.S. government new and unique capabilities to address multiple threats facing the U.S. economy and its interrelated foreign policy objectives. What has been your rapport, ACUX's that is, with our elected officials? Are they buying into it? I mean, I'm looking at this one description of your super consortium. It involves Israel, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and other Gulf state allies.
Right.
How's the relationship going with our elected officials?
Well, we haven't really started yet because we're putting the final touches and the missing link. We're not going to go hard over with the officials yet until I've established the heavy plant, which is central to everything. This factory I'm talking about. And so where can we build this factory? Well, there's any coastal state, by the way. The most attractive parts are the Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, etc. But I live in Washington, and Joe's a very good friend of mine, and I know Baltimore reasonably well. And there's no reason why it can't go to Baltimore at Sparrows Point.
Have you talked to the mayor? Have you talked to Mayor Scott?
No, we've tried. Joe, and even Charles Mann, who's a very good friend of both Joe and myself, have tried. There seems to be this myth that the ACUX project will wipe out the wind initiative. They seem to see us as a threat to the wind, but what they don't understand is that we are the best thing for offshore wind. Without ACUX, I doubt your elected officials are going to see any offshore wind in Maryland for at least another decade. We accelerate that. We try to make the point, but I think when they just think we're a threat to offshore wind. They're looking down the wrong end of a telescope, and that's the problem here, in my opinion. But we're trying. I'm hopeful that Joe's attempt to get a meeting with the governor will work out, because I don't think anybody else can guarantee 10,000 jobs. The difference, by the way, I want to make this clear to you, Doni, is that we understand that you can't. The training of this program to secure these 10,000 jobs could be in excess of $4 billion. The project can fund that. Our intention is to employ the trainees starting at $60,000 a year while they go through their training and get their certificate to work on nuclear power projects. I disagree that it's a high tech. It is high tech, but you can certainly train somebody who has the will and an IQ above room temperature, you can certainly get them to be very qualified nuclear construction people. No doubt about it.
Where is the academic community in all of this, Alex?
With respect to what, Doni, when you say that? What do you know?
Well, we have some of the finest universities in the world. Like, where's MIT with nuclear power and the future of wind?
Well, you have to be a rocket scientist to see nuclear power. I mean, we have in the world, we have 90-odd old reactors in this country. Half of them will need replacing because wind or solar will not do the job. Fact of the matter. And so I think the diehards of alternatives just think that these two energy sources can magically help the country. It will not. It will make us more vulnerable to foreign imports because we've learned this in the UK and Europe. America must look as an example of what happened in Europe and look to China and see what they're doing. And China, as I said, is miles ahead. And frankly, without this heavy plant in the US, the people that won't support us are de facto supporting Chinese exports. It's really quite obvious now to that. So, as going back to your previous question, what's the academic interest here? My answer is, who cares what their opinion is? They have, academics talk a lot. They don't deliver anything,
Are they? Well, one thing they talk about is the climate. And everywhere I go in politics, they're talking about the climate. They're talking about green energy. They're talking about things that are natural, like not destroying the earth. I mean, we will do anything for energy. I look at Nigeria, and right off the coast, there are people who siphon off gas, and at the end of the day, this oil is all in the waterways. We're killing ourselves anyway. It's like a slow suicide,
It's disgusting. It really is. But being angry about it and, it doesn't help. If you're going to transition, you've got to have a commitment to it. I think this administration has the agreement. I don't think they've necessarily got the right methodology of getting there fast. I think we can help that. But you've got to accept, as John Kerry has, nuclear must.
Okay. You have pushed this guy's name like he's a rock star. What is your understanding of John Kerry?
He's truly a man that truly sees the reality of a global. He looks at it from a globe. I'm a big fan of John Kerry. He sees the global picture, not the local picture. With little projects of little wind here and there, like little boutiques, it doesn't solve that. It's not going to mitigate climate. John Kerry is absolutely right. Coal, the first thing you have to do is take out coal. And that can only be done in collaboration with China. China is moving faster than we are to do that, by the way. So that's point one. Point two, John Kerry acknowledges that nuclear plays a role. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist or go to MIT or to Johns Hopkins to see that China is paving the way.
I told him that in 97. Alex, I wrote a paper and I said, you better leave them damn Chinese alone. They understand this landscape better than you think. You think they don't understand capitalism. They've been doing business before the U.S. was born.
I can't agree with you more. I think it's been a big blindside and a kind of Western arrogance that they are technically inferior or philosophically inferior. They're absolutely leading the way. John Kerry again has said, for God's sake, wake up. China is showing you the model. You cannot do green and transition without nuclear power. We can't even build a reactor in this country. No, and none of these people are going to invest in a capability in America because it's cheaper to get it from China. But we figured out a way that our product made in America, exported all over the world, particularly starting with the Middle East, is very competitive. And so, but it needs a factory, and we're the only people. You ring up Constellation Energy, saying, by the way, you prepared to invest $10 billion in a nuclear manufacturing facility? They'll say no. Well, the reality is this. So I'd like to get back to the point, if you don't mind. Why Baltimore? Well, Baltimore is not unique. It's good, but it's close by. And I think he'll do a lot socially. He'll do a lot more good if the facility was in Baltimore at Sparrows Point. Well, that's not Baltimore, but you know what I mean. In the Baltimore area. I've worked with Joe and Charles Mann, and we worked out that this kind of money that will be circulating in Baltimore will very much encourage a lot of young people to build a career. But as I said, the project provides careers.
It seems to me, Alex, you have two challenges. You have a political challenge and you have a media challenge. And that's the thing about America. One thing I love about Europe, Africa, the Middle East, you can't lie because everybody sees what everybody's doing. Here in America, we're geographically isolated. So if it doesn't show up on ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, Fox, it doesn't exist. So the first thing you have to do is a media campaign. And that media campaign is going to have to inform and educate. But then you need some elected officials on your side. And it sounds like you're going up against an already established political team who take their orders from a certain direction, and to go antithetical to that, you better come with some money. You better come with some money. You better come with some money. That's what I see.
Well, I counter that, if you don't mind.
Come on.
What I say to everybody is, somebody asked me a question. I said, why don't you ring the Chinese embassy and ask them the same question?
I agree. Again, I told them back in '97, you better leave them Chinese people alone. They got 1.4 billion. They can send a wave across Europe and the U.S., just 1 million soldiers. We don't have that kind of people, have those kind of numbers.
You can train 10,000 people who want a future and a career and have, as I said, an IQ above room temperature. You can train them to have a career in nuclear power. Nuclear. Now, where do we put this plant? I'd like because I live in Washington. If there was a deep water facility here in DC, I'd be putting it in DC.
And see, then, have you been to the Eastern Shore?
I have a few times, yeah.
Have you talked to the people there? What I'm getting to is, it's all about relationships, Alex. It's all about getting buy-in from the people. One of our guests, let me give you some of the feedback. Let me give you the feedback that you cannot see. This is from Michael Haney. He's a regular contributor to our show and actually a sponsor of this network. The tourism community fought it, talking about nuclear power, and it was tabled. However, it is coming back. The Moore administration did a white paper on windmill energy. As of June 1, 2017,
right,
Maryland has more than 191, I don't know what MW, of installed. Megawatts. Okay, thank you. Of installed land-based wind capacity. Number 3, we already have windmills in Maryland. However, they want to put thousands in the Atlantic Ocean off Ocean City, which there is community pushback. Almost done here. 2 more comments. China is capitalizing Africa and taking over. And as a black man, that is particularly important to me. When I saw the Chinese building roads there in 2006 in Tanzania, I said, look how the world is changing. For years, there was this, after World War II, the colonialism, the colonizing of every African nation, I think except Ethiopia, some would say Liberia and Sierra Leone. No, Ethiopia and Liberia. But the colonizing of Africa, everybody's take. Germany, England, French, the British, the Spanish, the Portuguese, just carved up Africa, left it. Then you got the period of neo-colonialism. Now, the Chinese are coming in. And it's just like the mother continent of where I'm from has just been prostituted since too long. And then last comment from Michael Haney. You're absolutely correct. Who controls media in America? Well, some would say the Jewish people. And who controls the messaging America gets? And again, some would say Jewish people. That's just what my take is. Your thoughts, Alex?
Well, again, we all live on this rock spinning around the sun. We better learn to get on with each other and stop pooping the bed, okay? Because it's not sustainable the way it's going. You have an administration here that sees that we should lead by the power of our example, not by the example of our power. That's the quote from John Kerry. I happen to be a very big fan of John Kerry, who I think sees the global picture, where some elected officials just see the local because of political necessity of getting re-elected. Just look at the local picture. But the bottom line is this: there are states that are very pro-nuclear, and there are states that are anti-nuclear for whatever reason. We respect that. It's called democracy. Africa, take an example, Africa. Let's go there. First of all, we tell people our project, you talk about Egypt, we mention Egypt. Egypt is an economic catastrophe. And on top of that, there's a war pending with Ethiopia over the dam of the Nile waters. If you can't on one hand see climate as an existential threat and then everything down to a local, I don't want it, in my backyard, well, then pay the price of a climate catastrophe. At some point, we've got to stop being self-indulgent as a species and get real. Now, let me tell you, I mentioned 50 reactors. This is a big, secure revenue stream for the plant, wherever it is. I hope in Maryland. I'm going to work hard for Maryland, but I can't go that much longer. I'll have to either do it in Texas or in Alabama, the plant. Now, the issue here is that 4 or 6 of these reactors, there'll be a number of reactors based in Egypt. There are 4 being built right now in Egypt by the Russians, not by the Americans, by the Russians. Nothing wrong with the Russian reactor. 2 and 2 makes 4 in any language, so just hold that thought. We are the 40 reactors in the Middle East, at least 6 of them can be dedicated to a partnership with Ethiopia and the dam. There is this thing called the GERD, the Great Ethiopian Dam, that I hope you've heard of.
I think it's called Aswan.
No, that's in Egypt. That's a lower dam. But there's one in the water for the Nile. The Nile has 2 sources of water. The Blue Nile comes from Ethiopia. That's about 60-70% of the Nile water. And then the rest of it comes from the White Nile. They both converge in Khartoum and then go on to Egypt, and then there's the dam down there. Ethiopia has built the dam, and they built the dam to export electricity. Of course, this is the great tension between Egypt, Khartoum, and Ethiopia, that one wrong step could result in a horrible war. Wars are not good for climate mitigation, okay? Look at when you just send a jet aircraft, a bomber, and bombs going off everywhere. It's carbon, it's just not good. The reality is it's better to see a problem and mitigate it before it happens. But again, nuclear power plays a vital role in the Middle East in the stability of it, and it actually brings everybody together. Reactors done our way are actually regime failure proof. So we're not relying on a regime to sustain the system. The system sustains the regime and modifies the regimes. But again, part of that program is avoiding a war between Egypt and Ethiopia over Nile waters that will only increase in probability due to climate. So you can't eat your cake and still have it too, as the famous cliche goes, okay? But the question is, all these good things nuclear power can do where wind and solar will not do the job, it will just be done by China. So it's a question of fish or cut bait, America. That point that crossroads has now been arrived at.
Okay, listen, we've just been joined by Christine Kasuda. Are you there? Unmute your microphone there, Christina. Who's this, Joe?
Who's who?
Is she with you, Christina Kasuda?
No, she's not.
Good morning.
Bring her on.
How you
Hi.
doing, Christina?
Great. How are you?
Good. Who are you?
My name is Christina Kasuda. I live in Clearwater, Florida, and I work with Alex Copson.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I work with Alex Copson.
Oh, okay. You want to give us your take?
Well, I tell you, I've just been. I am Alex's director of research and information, and I tell you, Alex to me is has more knowledge than anyone I've heard globally as to how to bring all of this together: energy, peace, stopping the wars. It's just I learn something new every day, and it's vital to our country, our stability, and globally. And I'm in full support of this program.
So how will he convince political leaders, whether they're in Florida, here in Baltimore, where he is in Washington, D.C., how will he convince someone of the ilk, of the caliber of a John Kerry to support this effort?
Well, he has the knowledge. He has the background. He has the experience. He has the
Give me a second, Alex.
he has the connections. He has the will to bring the United States and all the democratic countries together to improve the climate, to improve the peace. And it's just energy is power, and we need this this tool for the United States. We really need it. We need this to take globally, and it's very exciting. It's extremely proactive. We're not sitting back on our heels and letting China do all this. We are fully capable of doing this in the United States.
But we seem to be behind, though, Christina.
I'm sorry, can you please repeat that?
We seem to be behind. As was noted in the beginning of the show, yeah. China's ahead of UK, the UK is ahead of the US. We're lagging, we're laggards. There's a theory called disruptive innovation. As this new technology comes about, some will adapt faster and more intently than others. Some will just be laggards.
Oh yeah, China's
We're
already
laggards.
There are 20 manufacturing of these nuclear plants, and this is for energy. This is for peaceful living. And in the United States, I think we're last. But we can do this. That's the beautiful thing about this. The United States, we're fully capable. We're fully competent. This is what motivates me to be part of this program.
Now, what's your background, Christina? Last question, then we get to Alex. Are you a scientist or business person?
I'm more of a research person. I am not a scientist. I'm an athlete. I played basketball at the University of Virginia. I got into health services research after that, and then I did research with the military. And then I asked Alex if I could be part of this program. So basically what I do is just research the world, and I research locally, states, governments, how we're changing. And Alex, the beautiful thing about Alex, he has this perspective of this global international energy plan that no one else that I've seen or read about has. And it really does, again, it inspires me and motivates me to be part of this program.
Okay, so let me get to you, Alex. One question that's online is rather generic. Michael Haney is just posing questions. I guess he's pulling out his international handbook, but he's raising the question about BRICS, about Brazil, Russia, India, China. I think he left off South Africa. In terms of global alliances, what do you think of BRICS?
Well, you know, when you drop the ball, don't be surprised when somebody else picks it up, okay?
Yeah.
China is not messing about, okay? You can argue amongst yourselves and intellectualize and theorize and do whatever you like, but China doesn't mess about. So by the time you think about it, they've already done it, okay? And I've been warning about this for many, many years. I'd like to go back to your previous point about how am I going to explain this to the administration. Well, wars are not good for climate mitigation.
But it is good for business. They just sent $100 billion to Ukraine. I'm just wondering, I know some cats that will knock that off for $1 billion. You wouldn't be fighting all this time. It seems like the $100 billion is for something other than guns and killing people.
I don't know about that, Donnie. I really don't know, but all I can tell you is this.
You probably know some people that would knock them off for under $100 billion. That's a lot. I mean,
well,
how many damn guns do you need?
Well, listen, I told you that you've got to go back to the core of the issue. Okay, the core is we all need oil and gas, and we're in the transition period again.
Yeah, but I got to give you something biblical now, Alex. They're spending $100 billion, and I'll stop. I won't give you a long sermon, but $100 billion we're seeing go from the U.S. to Ukraine. In my city, I need new recreation centers on the east side, new recreation centers on the west side. If we can't be good stewards over the little things, then how in the world can we be stewards over bigger things? Let me get specific. In the white part of Baltimore, there is investment galore. In the black part of Baltimore, there's no investment. It's an investment desert. So how are you going to get people who are already on the periphery of development to believe in anything you say?
Well, what's the alternative? I mean, you know, if
take to rob and kill and to go get $1 billion worth of guns and stick you up.
Well, I told them on a call with your last governor, Barry. I said to him, listen, you know, if it's a question of a job wearing a vest at a hardware place or packing sneakers for Steph Curry out at Sparrows Point, I might even think that maybe a career in being a gangster is better.
No, politicians are gangsters. We have politicians that are millionaires, and they're going to tell everyday people how to live. That is gangster. It's oligarch. It's tyranny. It's all of that. It's just a play on words, you know.
Yes, let's just go back to the very point. You're saying what you're saying is the situation is neglect, okay, and the leadership maybe not doing its job. Well, let me ask you.
Look at what Europe did to Africa. It carved it up. These people can't even run a self-sufficient country without neo-colonial powers raping the country. I look at Haiti. Look at Haiti. Haiti is paying for an ass whipping they gave the French in 1800. It's still paying. So as we're talking about the world coming together, we're talking about BRICS, we're talking about alliances. If we don't learn to live together and treat people right and correct our mistakes from the past, how in the world can we go forward? How in the world can we, colonize the moon?
Well, look, this country is a free market economy. It relies on the private sector. We're not a communist state. This country is a very open democracy when we're going up against very powerful enterprises that are not democracies. That non-democracies move faster, more efficiently than we do. But at the end of the day, what's best? The reality is that we can't keep relying on government to keep getting us to where we want to go. And I think this project, the heavy plant that I prefer to put in Baltimore, goes a long way. I mean, I don't know any other project in the neighborhood, in the area, the 100 miles that can out of the gate start a process immediately of employing 10,000 people. which half of those people I've said to Joe, and I told you Joe's a very great close friend and ally of mine, as is Charles Mann, and they're trying to do something for people that don't have a chance. And I think this project gives a lot of young people a chance of getting out of a hole. And some people are born wealthy, some are born not the opposite of that. But that doesn't mean. I mean, look. There's no such thing as good or bad people, okay? There's a mixture, but you've got to help those good ones.
Well, you damn sure got some greedy people, Alex. You got some people that are so greedy, they don't want anybody else to eat. And we see it right here in Baltimore. They take my damn tax dollar, they go into a far part of Baltimore that black people don't even go to, and put my tax dollar over there, and then put my picture on the news because I got hungry and robbed the store to get some food to feed my grandchildren. Hypothetically.
Well, let me say this, Donnie, on that. What this project will do, it will bring 10,000 jobs, hiring individuals directly from inner city Baltimore. The tragedy is that there is no replacement for those jobs anywhere. And it comes without any investment from any government structure. Now, either we can accept what's good and what's green and what's job producing, and that will hire black youth individuals that you're just talking about who are looking for jobs, and hire them at the right price, who will come into the market with high school or GEDs, and they will begin training making $60,000 annually. It will take them up to $150,000 to $200,000 annually. Yet, the focus in
Joe, the more I think about that, the more I think about the racism that's already in play. White folks ain't gonna let black people make that kind of money and not take over that industry. That's just not how Baltimore works.
Donnie, it comes from.
Hold tight. Michael Haney, you've been sitting here listening. Help me out. Unmute yourself, Michael Haney. Come on, Michael Haney, don't you dare. We're over. We're over the time. So,
Donnie, is Michael on?
This is a good conversation, and I have a heck of a lot of respect for Joe. And when I was listening for the right price for inner city black kids, because the mayoral candidate Robert Wallace with Ray Lewis started something called Power 52 as for the black kids too, to let them do energy retrofits and energy analysis in the Baltimore region a few years ago. Panned out to a degree, but when you start talking about people making $15 or $20 an hour, which back then was significantly above the average wage, right? Versus 60,000, Joe, which is now all of a sudden a amenable living wage, because a former gubernatorial candidate, Michael Miller, did an analysis with his company on what it took for a person to live properly, and it's $68,000. So now we're talking. So you got me all, because this has been a very riveting conversation that has forced me to listen. First of all, the clarity of the communications was excellent. And the subject matter, which we usually don't have conversations about in our community, is compelling, and we need to listen. So, Joe, I'm listening to you because when you said 60,000 to be able to be propelled to six figures for our young black kids, many of them who have educational challenges, man, we got to hear this out.
That's what I'm saying, Michael. You're right on it. And I said that, and along with Charles Mann, who used to play football for the Washington Redskins, actually all pro, we both looked at this particular model and said that we had to be a part of this. And so we've been working on this for about 2.5 to 3 years, because when we use those numbers, $10,000 jobs, that's not anything to just gloss over, because it's never been done in the state of Maryland, where you've got that kind of focused money with generating and making revolutionary changes in the inner city. It takes the kids off of the street. It takes the squeegee bottles out of their hands. It takes them off of the corner selling drugs. This is what this project does. And if it moves from Baltimore City because the politicians or whoever don't accept it, it will move to another area that might not have an African American population. And then those jobs, as you have identified, Donnie, will go to that area that will be different makeup of population levels. People can only benefit from what's there. Baltimore City cannot follow this project. Its black kids cannot go to this project if the project moves to California or it moves to Alabama.
Man, they're not taking care of the black kids we got here now with the money we already have. That's the one part that you know. I'm with you. And I'm like, hold up. Let's look at what they've already done. Let me give you a quick example. Back in 1973. See, that's why history is important. I always get questioned why you keep talking about history. 1973, Michael Haney. They said vote for this Maryland State Lottery, right? And we will have money for education. We have a new football stadium, a new baseball stadium, but we have 11 schools in the city of Baltimore in 2023, 40, 50 years later, that do not have heat. Last week, they bragged about $300 million in sports betting. All we want is some damn schools with new textbooks and a recreation center so the kids can go and do something until it's 8 or 9 o'clock and they can go home. Common sense stuff that we can't get right. But now we want to, as Alex says, put the horse before the cart and all of those other analogies. We can't even keep our room clean.
If I can chime in, Donnie, because I know that you're over because
we over. You're the funder, so
I hear you, Donnie. If I can chime in for a second, you got Joe. You got my attention. You got my attention. What Donnie is talking about is a systemic management issue that if I was in business and my boss saw that I wasn't heating the guest rooms that you stay in, guess what he would do? He would fire me, because there's no doubt that the resources and money are there to fix it. But if systemically you have the wrong leadership, Donnie, in our 11 schools with no heat, and you don't deal with it, then that's a whole separate matter than not having the resources. What Joe is talking about is giving young people something that will lift their head, make them pay attention, because 60, 70,000, Mike Miller, Joe, I think you probably heard of him. He was one of the earlier candidates in for governor, and then he pulled out. He funded his own campaign, has his own business. He did a white paper on a similar analogy as you were doing with energy to healthcare, of paying these young people a amount of money with a career track. Because it's one thing to start them off at 60 and give them the ability to get to over 100,000. You think that doesn't excite you and compare to what squeegeeing or selling drugs on the corner? It absolutely. I'm all in, Joe, and hopefully you and I can have a conversation so I can get more endowed as to what you're really talking about, because this is life-saving. This is life-saving when you say you're going to start me at 60 grand. And then I become excited about education then, motivator. But I just want to let you know this show is
leadership
that Donnie talked about. The heat.
This show is brought to you by BeMoreNews.com. Hey, Mr. Haney, this show is brought to you by BeMoreNews.com. We're now in the overtime, and I will be sending you, Alex, you, Mr. Gaskins, I called you the bank president, and you, Mr. Haney, an invoice, because this is a small business and we love to get paid. We love to go to the bank. Okay, there you have it. Alex, come on in. Thank you for your patience.
Not at all. Look, transformation is also in people as well. You've got a great new governor. Okay, this governor can make this happen. Okay, he's a military man. He should be quite capable of understanding the national security vitality, the vital part of this project. It plays a vital role in our national security internationally. He should be very able to see that the meteoric impact this could have socially on the area. Again, you can't ask kids to go to training for 3 years and sort of struggle to get to school and back. You've got incentivize them. We've already built in a 50% attrition rate into the financial model to account for dropouts for whatever reason. But I believe in the city, and I think that this is the break this city is needed. I think this is a project that would be very important to your new governor. And as I said, I think if he's got presidential ambitions in the future, you couldn't get a better branding tool than this project. So look, I do hope Joe is trying to set up.
Hey, Joe, are you in touch with Alex? Joe, are you in touch with Alex?
Yeah. You want lunch? We'll do lunch.
Are you in touch with Alex? Because
yes,
it's
absolutely.
I would absolutely, man. I think this is crucial. And I think the bigger thing to what Doni asked a half hour ago of Alex in terms of his political astuteness, and when I use the word ignorance, it's not in a detrimental way, but in terms of special interests that may keep certain politicals from being involved in something like this. Sometimes you got to figure out a path around or a path to augment and help what they have to deal with as well. Just like with the president of the United States.
Hey, Mike, you can't hear.
Electric cars.
Hey, Mike, he's trying to respond to you. Go ahead, Alex.
Look,
okay, I hadn't finished, but go ahead.
Well,
I apologize.
Well, you're just being long-winded. We're in the overtime.
I think this is a very.
And I gave you the link about 30 minutes ago, so it's your own fault. All right, come on, Alex.
Right. I think we know for a fact some embedded vested interests in offshore wind believe that once I show up in Baltimore with the project, that they feel that this project will kill offshore wind. Again, they are so wrong, 180 degrees wrong. We are the ones that will accelerate Maryland wind, not put it back. And we could, at another session, I can explain how that's done. So those who supported wind and think this may be an embarrassment is quite the contrary.
Okay, so let me cut you right here, Mike Haney, because Joe's being a tad coy. Didn't Michael Enright leave the O'Malley administration for a wind farm down on the Eastern Shore? Haney?
Absolutely, man. Right on the Eastern Shore, off of the Ocean City beaches, and it met strong resistance, man, because no one felt as though we should have hundreds or thousands of windmills in the water of the Atlantic Ocean off Oceanside. I remember it very, very well. It was a.
I also remember this man. Look.
Then I was
Enright left Baltimore. He was running Baltimore, went to Maryland. He was running the state of Maryland. He left that to go to private industry for wind energy.
And
that's a lot. That's a lot to forsake. That's a lot of money he left on the table. And
correct.
Now what?
Doni, no. Listen. He did that, and back during the time when wind energy got kicked off, I worked the General Assembly to help wind energy to get kicked off. And I got the 2 black senators to support it so it would become a project. Otherwise, it'd be nothing. But yes, he did, but there is no wind farm. You have to understand that, yes, they ran out to do that, but they have nothing. He went out, he pushed. They are operating, and they're presently, I think Alex used numbers around $1 billion in losses. Not a building, no structure, no nothing in place there. And it cannot.
Have you gone to these same guys since they already have experience? Have you talked to Enright?
They don't. You're missing it. You're missing.
That's why we want clarity.
They do not have this experience and expertise that ACUX has.
They didn't have experience with the wind energy, but they used their political capital to put it on there. Do you follow me?
But
Michael Haney, do you follow me?
Look,
if these are the guys with the political vehicle, Michael Haney, it seems to me you ought to get that vehicle, the political vehicle. We don't need all of this stuff.
I understand that Martin O'Malley, who was
I was out in California last year.
I was here.
I was out in California last year in Desert Springs, Palm Springs. Crazy. Crazy the wind energy and the money that's moving out there and what it has done to their economy. Crazy out in California, the southern portion going towards Arizona, the windmills they have out there on land, tenable land, untenable land, and what it could do for Baltimore as a producer, reseller, and for our impoverished young people. I love this
I don't want to hear
idea,
that
and I
crap.
think
Don't use the young people. Whatever you do, don't use the young people. They've lied to these young people since 1973. Don't do that on my watch.
But guess what, Donnie? I'm not they. Joe's not they. It's a whole different representation.
Donnie, you
of
know
voice
better than that. We wouldn't even be on your
that,
show.
You know, it's a different voice. This is maybe the best opportunity show you put on. This is enlightening.
You said that last week.
I think.
Nah, Donnie, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
Donnie,
Alex, come on, you get your final comment.
Sheila Dixon running for mayor, who may need to be leveraged for this, right? You never know.
Yes, she might.
Let Alex get his closing thoughts in. Then we're going to come to Christina.
This is an opportunity, Donnie.
Okay, all right, Alex, we'll start with you.
Well, the point I want to make is, where is the offshore wind in Maryland? It's predicated on foreign vessels coming into this country to install them. Well, where are these vessels? Well, I'll tell you two things. One, they're not coming. If they do, they're going to be very expensive. About $600,000 a day, and they're not going to come over here for a week or two. They'll want at least a couple of years commitment, which will add to the cost of offshore wind. So you can't. The wind developers have to face the fact that there are supply problems and there are cost problems, and no matter how much they try and kick the can down the road, 2 and 2 makes 4. It doesn't make 5. Even if you install all that wind and the people on the coastal cities say, yeah, bring it in, let's put thousands of them out there, you still need a base load power, because it's ridiculous to think that wind will do it by itself. It can only produce the wind at nameplate value at about 40-50% is a stretch, trust me. So the country, everyone else is waking up to the fact that you need to have nuclear power as the base load if you want green. If you don't care about green, burn coal. But the reality is this. We have a gap in our nuclear capability to manufacture reactors and export them. If we don't, the export value, you're in a race with China. The Pentagon has accepted that the U.S. now in the Middle East is in a race with China. Wes Moore, you voted him in as your new governor. He has an incredible opportunity here to change things, but he has to face the fact that 2 and 2 makes 4. Wind cannot do it itself, and it's not going to happen in his lifetime without the ACUX project.
Okay, one quick question for you, Alex. Where is Canada in all of this?
Canada? Where's that? Yeah, Canada.
Canada's just north of America, and according to report, Canada's nuclear program is a significant part of its energy mix.
Everyone is waking up to the fact at last that nuclear isn't the bad guy, okay? Yes, it has issues, but, life has issues. Planes go down, you can't make everything 100%. The reality is this. You're not going to have a transition without nuclear power. And we don't have the ability to manufacture nuclear power reactors in this country. Once you wake up to the fact you need nuclear, you'll be importing it. The last 2 reactors that went up in the U.S., the heavy parts where the real money was imported in from Asia. Okay, fact, and that's the Vogtle nuclear station in Georgia that's about to come online. So the fact of the matter is, I would say, wake up, America. And we need a heavy plant to manufacture this. The point, too, is where's more? Do you want this in Baltimore? Because it will create 10,000 jobs. The project can pay the trainees while they're getting their nuclear ticket. And once they've got their nuclear ticket and the plant opens, they're now looking at 150 to 200,000 a year. Now, you do the calculation that if 50% of them come from District 7, I think Mr. Infume's district, you've got, say, perhaps 3,000 to 5,000 young people from that district. That has an enormous impact on the economy of Baltimore.
Yeah, it does. But I don't trust these people here who run things, Alex. They said that in 1973. They promised money for education. It's just lies. It's just lies, lies, lies.
Yes, but look, all I can say is that
I don't believe them. They robbed me the first time. What's to make me think that this stick-up artist, the state of Maryland, who robbed me and my community in 73 won't do it in 2023? I don't believe them.
Well, you've got a great guy, I think, called Wes Moore, okay? Give him the power to change things. I think ACUX gives him that tool to change things. If he doesn't have the tool, I'm kind of concerned that he's throwing himself on the sword of offshore wind, which isn't deliverable. Digging a hole at Sparrows Point isn't going to have any offshore wind in offshore Maryland. Okay, the reality is that this project could very quickly spend $4 billion in building the facility, of which half of that will go to local contractors, cement, rebar, construction workers, equipment, etc. And while that's going on, we have to recruit, fund the schools to train people to man the facility, and then they have a career that's going to last at least a lifetime, and probably their kids' lifetime as well. The great thing about nuclear power is they last 60 to 80 years. Okay, 60 to 80 years. That not only do you have to build the reactor and make the parts that do that, you have to maintain the damn things at the same time. So there's a complete career here. We don't provide jobs, we provide careers. And you're looking at, upper middle class income. So, and I just hope that at least half this workforce can be given with the support of your new governor, who has the background to understand this project, if only he'll listen to it, to be able to realize not only how it's valuable for the country, but it could be vital to the future of Baltimore.
Alex, have you created jobs anywhere else?
I have actually. I've done a number of projects, and I'll send you my bio that you can share with people. This is a mega job. And sometimes, the Red Sea parts, okay, and you can't wait for an Uber to take you through. You've got to go through. We spent about last 5 years investing serious money in developing the architecture. You can't build a building unless you've got the architecture. The architecture is nothing unless you've done the structural analysis to make sure the building won't collapse or fall over. We've done all that. We're now at the point where we're ready for liftoff of the project. What I haven't done is site this vital heavy plant. I'd like it to be in Baltimore, but that's what Wes Moore is called. Joe has reached out to him. Joe has reached out to Infume's office and the young mayor, who seems to be quite good. But here it is, guys. You want it or not, because it will go to Texas otherwise, or Alabama. And, what did you achieve? Nothing changes in Baltimore, and the wind isn't coming.
Well, I got to tell you, Alex, I don't have a lot of faith in politicians when it comes to fixing Baltimore or the state of Maryland. I think that's done.
Well, let the private sector do it, Donnie.
That I can. I have a little more faith in the private sector. These politicians, I wouldn't. I don't know.
Look, this Joe Biden, our president right now, desperately needs this project in the Middle East. The U.S. cannot fix the Middle East.
No, it can't. It's biblical.
No, it cannot do it. And ACUX cannot provide that ability unless it has a heavy plant in America to deliver the nuclear power, to give the U.S. the leadership and the control over the non-proliferation aspects.
Okay, Mike.
So the reality is, you've got a governor, a very good guy.
Have you met this guy? Alex, have you met the governor?
I met him at a fundraiser. He seems like a nice fellow.
Oh, because you throwing this nice guy. He's a nice guy. John Kerr's a nice guy. Westmore. Do you know these people? I'm from Baltimore. We got to do a fact check. We got to frisk you. We got to see if you strapped, if you got any hardware on you. I mean, we need to check your references. We need to check your credit. We need to check your lineage, your pedigree. We don't just say he's a nice guy.
Doni, none of them can deliver anything unless they've got the tools. And the one vital tool in this transition world is the ACUX project. I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm very proud of it, and I think I can stand up to any scrutiny on it, on any level. So all I'm doing is, look, to me, I like to have an optimistic view, although I take a pessimistic reality check on things. Wes Moore is your new governor. He's perfectly able to understand the ACUX project more than probably a lot more other politicians. This project is vital to the Pentagon and Central Command's mission in the Middle East and in the East Med to prevent wars. This disaster we have going on in the Mediterranean, Israel, Gaza, etc., is just the beginning. ACUX prevents it going any further and actually gives it a chance to reverse. And so Wes could be very proud of this. So let's call his cards then. Call his cards. I'm hoping, we will have a meeting shortly before I have to commit to Texas. Other states want the project. They don't understand why I'm delaying it. I'm saying, well, just give me some more time on this. I live in Washington. It's easy for me to drive up to a factory in Baltimore than to go to one in Alabama or Texas. So,
well, they got a rap song, and it said, if your girl start acting up, then you take her friend. So these people don't want to play right. Be gone. Alex, we got to get out of here. Joe, Mike, Christina, it's been wonderful hanging out with you. My name's Donnie Glover.
Thank
Good
you.
morning. Good morning, world.
Thank you.